What is blessing? The invisible wealth everyone has. Have you ever met someone who isn't rich, doesn't hold a fancy job, maybe doesn't even own much? Yet wherever they go, people love them, respect them, and want to be around them? You look at them and think, what is it about this person? Could that be what we call blessing? Opening flow. We live in a world where success is often measured by what you can see, the size of your house, the brand of your car, the balance in your bank account. But if we pause for a second, if we look deeper, isn't there another kind of wealth? One that doesn't glitter, doesn't show up on your tax report, but you can feel it the moment you stand next to someone? That invisible wealth is what many traditions call blessing, or in Eastern wisdom, phc bow. But what is it, really? And more importantly, how do we know if we have it? A story to ground us. Let me tell you a story. There was once a farmer. He lived simply, in a small wooden house with a leaking roof. His clothes were plain, his meals humble. To an outsider, he had nothing that looked like success. But if you spent just a day in his village, you'd notice something strange. Whenever he walked down the street, neighbors would smile at him. When someone was sick, he'd be the first to show up with herbs he grew in his garden. If a kid scraped his knee, he'd pause his work and gently patch them up. He never had much money to give, but his presence carried a warmth people could trust. Here's the fascinating part. When he was old, even though he didn't leave behind land or gold, the whole village gathered to care for him. People brought food, company, laughter, and when he passed, the entire village mourned. Now let me ask you, was that man poor, or was he one of the richest men alive? What blessing really means? This is the paradox. We've been taught to chase wealth in visible forms, but blessings are invisible wealth. Blessing can look like good health that lets you wake up without pain, a sharp mind that can see clearly, make wise choices, a supportive partner or loyal friend who shows up when you need them, the ability to walk into a room and somehow make people feel lighter. You can't deposit it into a bank account. You can't show it off on Instagram. Yet, isn't it true? Without blessing, all the money and power in the world feels fragile? Think about it. A billionaire lying in a hospital bed, trading millions just to breathe without machines. A powerful CEO who goes home to an empty, cold house. A celebrity surrounded by crowds but drowning in loneliness. Now compare that to the farmer, who dies with nothing in his pocket but leaves behind a legacy of love. Who, in your heart, feels truly wealthy? Philosophical pause. Here's a question for you. When was the last time you felt genuinely blessed? Not just lucky, but deeply cared for by life? Maybe it was that moment when you were sick, and a friend unexpectedly brought you soup. Maybe it was when you lost a job, but instead of despair, a better opportunity opened up. Or maybe it was something so simple, waking up to the sound of birds, realizing you have another day to live. That's blessing. That's invisible wealth. Breaking the misunderstanding. Many people think blessing is some magical favor granted by the heavens, something random, or only reserved for the religious. But blessing is not superstition, and it's not luck. Blessing is the natural outcome of how we live, how we think, how we treat others. If your heart is kind, people will naturally trust you. If your actions are honest, life will naturally support you. If your mind is calm, opportunities will naturally come your way. In other words, blessing is the echo of your choices, the hidden signs of blessing. You might be wondering, how do I know if I carry blessing? Here are a few subtle signs. People feel safe around you. They relax in your presence, without you needing to say much. You bounce back from hardship. Even when life knocks you down, somehow help appears, or strength arises from within. Your relationships last. Not perfect, but steady, supportive, rooted in respect. Your heart feels light. You don't need to compare constantly, because you carry a quiet contentment. Notice how none of these have to do with status, money, or possessions. A personal reflection. I remember once sitting next to an elderly woman on a park bench. She wore no jewelry, her clothes were simple, her hair silver. But when she smiled, I felt as though the whole park got brighter. She told me, "Child, I've lived through war, hunger, loss, but I never let bitterness grow in my heart. That's why I still sleep peacefully at night." And it struck me, that peace, that smile, was her blessing. It wasn't given by anyone else. It was the fragrance of the life she had cultivated. Practical insight. So maybe here's the shift we need. Stop asking, how much do I have? And start asking, how much blessing do I carry? Because blessings multiply. Money, you spend once, it's gone. But blessings, kindness, compassion, integrity, they ripple, they return, they sustain. And when life throws storms your way, it's not your possessions that carry you through, but the invisible wealth you've stored up in your spirit. The closing message. So let's wrap this part up. Blessing is not some distant, mystical thing. It's here, already present in our lives, if we pay attention. It is the invisible wealth that keeps us steady, the foundation of peace. Without it, no matter how high we climb, we are shaky. With it, even a simple life becomes radiant. Blessing is the root of true peace. Teasing the next part. But then comes the bigger question. If blessing is so precious, where does it actually come from? Is it fate? Is it something we are born with? Or is it something we can create, moment by moment? That's what we'll explore in the next video. Karma. You reap what you sow. Have you ever noticed? Two people do the exact same action, but their outcomes turn out completely different? Why is it that one person gives generously and later receives kindness in return, while another seems to get lost in struggle? Is it coincidence? Or is there a deeper law at play? Opening flow. Life often feels mysterious, doesn't it? We watch events unfold and sometimes think, that's unfair. That doesn't make sense. But if we look carefully, patiently, we begin to see patterns. Every choice, every action, is like a seed. And seeds, sooner or later, bear fruit. This is what ancient wisdom calls karma, the law of cause and effect. Or simply, you reap what you sow. But let's not just talk in theory. Let me share a story with you. The story of a simple act. There was a young man walking home one evening when he saw an elderly woman struggling with her groceries. He stopped, carried the heavy bags for her, and made sure she got home safely. He didn't think much of it. It was just a moment of kindness. Years later, this same man faced his own hardship. He lost his job and was on the verge of despair. But then, out of nowhere, a neighbor helped him find work, offering a chance just when he needed it most. It's easy to call that luck. But what if it was more than luck? What if that act of kindness planted a seed, and life, in its quiet way, returned it to him when he needed it most? Understanding karma. Karma is not about punishment or reward in some mystical sense. It's not superstition. It's cause and effect. Every thought, every action, is a seed. Some seeds sprout quickly. You smile at someone, they smile back instantly. Other seeds take years. You show kindness today, and maybe life circles back decades later in a surprising form of help. And yes, there are seeds that take generations. Like planting a tree, you may not sit in its shade, but your children, or their children, will. This is why karma can feel confusing. We often expect immediate results. I did something good, so why didn't good come right away? But nature doesn't work that way. Even in farming, you don't plant a seed today and eat fruit tomorrow. There's a season, a process, a timing we can't always control. Philosophical pause. Think about your own life. Have you ever experienced a moment where help came to you out of nowhere, at just the right time? Maybe a stranger paid for your coffee when you forgot your wallet. Maybe an old friend showed up with advice when you were at your lowest. What if those weren't accidents? What if they were the delayed ripening of seeds you planted long ago? Maybe a smile you gave when someone needed it, a word of encouragement, a helping hand you already forgot about. Karma remembers. Why karma feels so mysterious? Here's the thing, karma is simple, but not always obvious. Why? Because the timing is unpredictable. Some seeds grow fast, some slow. Some grow in ways we can't even recognize at first. That's why two people can do similar actions, yet reap different outcomes, because their field of karma is different, with seeds planted from the past still ripening in their own season. It's like two farmers planting the same crop on two different fields. If one field has been nourished for years, the soil is fertile, the harvest comes quicker. If the other field has been neglected, dry, rocky, the seeds struggle. That's why life doesn't always appear fair on the surface. But if we look deeper, the law remains consistent. Every action has a consequence. Every seed bears fruit. Personal reflection. I once knew a man who carried bitterness his whole life. He would cheat in small ways, cut corners, speak harshly, step on others to get ahead. For years, it seemed like he was winning. He had money, status, power. But over time, those around him drifted away. His children grew distant. His health declined under stress. By the time he realized it, he was surrounded by things, but not by love. That, too, was karma. Seeds he had sown, finally bearing their bitter fruit. Contrast that with another person I met. She lived simply, never sought recognition, but always carried a spirit of generosity. Over time, she became a magnet for kindness. Even strangers helped her. And in her old age, she was never alone. Her blessing was invisible, but undeniable. Karma is not fate. Now, here's something important. Karma is not fatalism. It's not about being trapped by the past. Yes, we live with seeds we've already sown. But every single day, we also sow new seeds. That means the future is not fixed. It's being written, right now, by how we think, how we speak, how we act. So if you've made mistakes, you're not doomed. If you've carried pain, you're not cursed. You can start planting new seeds today. Seeds of kindness, seeds of honesty, seeds of patience. And though they may not sprout immediately, in time, they will grow. Isn't that empowering? That our future is, in some way, in our hands? The closing message. So here's the takeaway. Karma is not about fear, nor about blind superstition. It's the most natural law of all, cause and effect. Just like gravity. You reap what you sow. That means our lives aren't random. They're shaped. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. And when we understand this, we stop blaming luck or fate. We start taking responsibility. We start planting consciously. Karma is not mystical punishment. It is the universe's fairness. Teasing the next part. But of course, this raises another question. If karma is so fair, then why do we sometimes see cruel people still living in comfort? Why do some who harm others seem to thrive? Isn't that unfair? Or is there another layer we are missing? That's what we'll explore in the next video. Why do evil people still prosper? Have you ever wondered why some dishonest people seem to live in luxury, while good-hearted people struggle? Why does it look like the universe is rewarding cruelty instead of kindness? Opening thought. It's one of the oldest, most troubling questions. We see it in headlines. We see it in our neighborhoods. A ruthless businessman climbs to the top while stepping on others. A corrupt leader enjoys power and wealth while ordinary people suffer. And we ask ourselves, where is the justice? If karma is real, shouldn't the wicked face consequences? The truth is, yes, they will. But not always in the timing we expect. A story of false wealth. Let me tell you a story. There was once a wealthy man who built his fortune through deception. On the surface, he had everything: mansions, cars, influence. People envied his lifestyle. But if you looked closer, behind the golden gates, you would find a man who rarely slept peacefully. He was constantly suspicious, always fearing betrayal, always watching his back. His laughter at parties was hollow, his smile strained. He had money, but he never had rest. And eventually, when circumstances shifted, when new rivals emerged, his empire collapsed overnight. Friends disappeared, partners turned on him, and his so-called wealth became a trap. The law of cause and effect. Here's the point. Wealth gained through harmful actions is not true blessing. It is more like bait, attractive in the short term, but carrying the weight of consequences that must eventually be paid. Think of it this way. If you steal fruit from a tree, you get to enjoy it today. But the act of stealing also plants seeds of mistrust, conflict, and eventual downfall. Karma doesn't always arrive with the swiftness of lightning. Sometimes it moves like the slow turning of seasons. You can live in summer for a while, even if you've sown bad seeds, but autumn and winter will surely come. Why it feels so unfair? Part of the struggle is that we, as human beings, crave immediate justice. We want to see the villain punished in the final scene. We want the story wrapped up neatly. But life is more complex. Sometimes karma ripens in this lifetime. Sometimes later. Sometimes in ways we cannot see directly. Think about it. Would you call someone lucky if they lived in constant fear? Would you call it success if they could never trust the people around them? What looks like prosperity from the outside can actually be a very heavy prison. A personal reflection. I once met a man who confessed something to me. He had cut corners in his business, lied, cheated, took advantage of people. For a while, he enjoyed wealth and recognition. But years later, when we spoke, he admitted that he was haunted. He worried every day that someone would expose him. His relationships were shallow. His health was failing from the stress of keeping up appearances. He said, "I built my house on sand, and now I'm sinking." That, too, is karma, not always in dramatic punishment, but in the quiet erosion of peace. The deeper teaching. Here's the wisdom. True fortune is not measured by what you own, but by the peace you carry. If your wealth comes at the cost of harming others, it's not a blessing, it's debt disguised as treasure. The universe has not forgotten. The fruit has simply not ripened yet. That's why some evil people seem to prosper. They are spending the results of past good seeds. Maybe in a previous time, they gave, they helped, they earned merit, and now they are enjoying that temporary fruit. But if they plant bad seeds now, their future harvest will be bitter. So when you see someone living in luxury but carrying cruelty in their heart, don't be deceived. Their story is not finished. Shifting our perspective. This also teaches us something important. Don't confuse wealth with blessing. True blessing, or what some traditions call merit, is measured by inequalities, peace, compassion, wisdom, health, harmony in relationships. These cannot be bought. They can only be cultivated. When someone asks, why does the wicked prosper? Maybe the better question is what they have really prosperity? A gentle challenge. Let me ask you, would you rather have a mansion filled with fear, or a modest home filled with peace? Would you rather have millions in the bank but no trust in your family, or a simple meal with loved ones who truly care? Which feels like real wealth to you? The world may celebrate riches, but life has a way of revealing what truly matters. Closing message. So here's the truth. Wealth gained through harm is not blessing. It is a debt. A weight. Sometimes it takes years to unfold, but the law remains. When you see someone who seems to prosper through cruelty, don't envy them, and don't despair. Their harvest is not yet complete. And remember, true prosperity is not measured in gold, but in peace. Teasing the next part. But then another question naturally arises. If riches and appearances can deceive us, how do we recognize real blessing? What does genuine merit look like in daily life? That's what we'll explore in the next video. What is true blessing? If you had to choose, would you rather be wealthy but restless, or live simply, yet deeply happy? Opening thought. It's a question worth pausing over. We often chase wealth, success, recognition, thinking that's what life is all about. But if those things come without peace, do they truly count as blessings? There's a saying, not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything that looks like fortune is real fortune. So, what is true blessing? The story of the monk. There was once a meditation master who lived in a small hut on the edge of a forest. He owned almost nothing, just a worn-out robe and a wooden bowl. And yet, everyone who came to see him left with a sense of peace. Merchants, farmers, even powerful leaders, they all said the same thing. When I sit with him, I feel light. My worries shrink. My heart is calm. Here's the irony. By society's standards, he was poor. But in the eyes of those who met him, he was one of the richest men alive. Because he carried something that money cannot buy, inner peace. The deeper truth. This story reminds us, true blessing is not the size of your bank account, but the state of your heart. You can own the latest car, the biggest house, and still feel empty inside. Or you can have just enough to live, and yet feel abundant, because your mind is free, your relationships are warm, and your days are filled with meaning. Buddhist teachings describe blessings not as external possessions, but as inner qualities: peace, wisdom, kindness, resilience. These are treasures no one can steal from you. A modern example. Think about the people you admire most. Is it really the billionaires with yachts and private jets? Or is it those who radiate kindness, who bring calm wherever they go? I once met a woman who worked a very ordinary job. She wasn't rich, she didn't have fame. But everyone in her community loved her. Why? Because she always carried a smile, always listened when someone needed comfort, always gave without expecting anything back. Her life was simple, but when you stood near her, you felt safe. Isn't that a kind of wealth far greater than gold? A reflection for us. So let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly blessed? Was it during a shopping spree? Or during a quiet dinner with family? Was it when you received a paycheck, or when someone sincerely said, "Thank you, you made my day better"? Moments of blessing often come in disguise. They come as peace in your heart, as clarity in your mind, as love that surrounds you. Shifting the definition of wealth. Society tells us to measure wealth by possessions, but spiritual wisdom invites us to measure it differently, by peace, joy, and wisdom. A person who has peace in their heart carries a kind of aura. You've met them before. You walk away from a conversation with them and feel lighter, calmer. That's true prosperity. That's true fortune. And the irony is, many people with great external riches spend their whole lives chasing that inner state they can never buy. Personal experience. I'll share something personal. Years ago, I was obsessed with chasing more money, more recognition, more milestones. And sure, I got some of it. But instead of feeling fulfilled, I often felt restless. Always thinking about the next step, always comparing myself to others. One day, I sat down with an older mentor. He asked me, "When do you feel happiest?" I thought about it, and I realized it wasn't the big achievements. It was the small, quiet moments. Reading a book in the morning sun, laughing with friends, helping someone without expecting anything. That conversation shifted my perspective. I began to see that true blessing isn't found out there. It's cultivated in here. The teaching. So let's put it clearly. Wealth without peace is poverty in disguise. Simplicity with joy is true abundance. True blessing is not outside of us. It is a quality of mind and heart. When the mind is calm, when compassion flows naturally, when wisdom guides our choices, that is when we are truly blessed. A gentle challenge. Take a moment right now. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, am I chasing blessings outside, while ignoring the blessing already inside? Do I confuse money with peace, or possessions with happiness? What would happen if I valued inner calm as much as my paycheck? Sometimes, the shift in definition is all it takes to feel richer than ever. Closing message. So, if someone asks, what is true blessing? The answer is simple. It is a heart that rests in peace, and a mind that shines with wisdom. That's why a monk with nothing can be richer than a king. Because the greatest wealth is not in what we own, it's in who we are. Teasing the next part. But then another question arises. If true blessing is peace and wisdom, how do we cultivate it? How do we plant the seeds of such fortune in our own lives? That is exactly what we'll explore in the next video. 3 ways to cultivate blessings. Did you know, every single day, we are given countless chances to plant blessings, yet most of us let them slip away unnoticed. Opening thought. We often think blessings are something mystical, out of reach, something that falls into our lives by luck or fate. But what if I told you that blessings are like seeds, and you can plant them every single day? Not just once in a lifetime, not only through grand gestures, but in the small, ordinary choices we make moment by moment. The truth is, there are timeless ways to cultivate blessings. And in this conversation, I want to share with you 3 of them: generosity, mindful living, and inner cultivation. The first way, generosity. Dana. Let's start with the first, generosity. When people hear that word, they often think of giving away money or donating to charity. And yes, that's one form of generosity. But generosity is much broader. It's also the smile you offer to a stranger, the time you give to listen to someone in pain, the seat you give up on the bus, the words of encouragement you share when a friend is about to give up. Think about it. Has someone's small kindness ever turned around your entire day? Maybe a cashier's warm "How are you doing today?" made you feel less invisible. Maybe a friend's unexpected message reminded you that you're not alone. That's generosity too. The Buddhist tradition calls it dana, the act of giving without expecting anything in return. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to be rich to practice it. You just need an open heart. Generosity isn't measured by the size of the gift, but by the depth of intention. The second way, moral discipline, sila. The second way to plant blessings is through moral discipline, or what we can simply call living with integrity. Every day, we make choices, some big, most small, that either bring harmony or disharmony to the world around us. Do we choose honesty, or do we twist the truth? Do we choose kindness, or do we let anger dictate our actions? When we live with integrity, we create trust. We bring safety to others. People can relax around us because they know we won't harm them. I remember once meeting a man in a village who was not wealthy at all. He worked a modest job, but people in the community often came to him for advice, for mediation, for help settling disputes. Why? Because he was known to be fair, honest, and compassionate. That's the kind of invisible wealth moral integrity brings. People may forget your successes, but they never forget how safe and respected they felt in your presence. In that sense, keeping our actions clean, avoiding harm, cultivating honesty, practicing patience, isn't about following strict rules. It's about planting seeds of peace, trust, and respect that blossom into blessings not just for us, but for everyone around us. The third way, inner cultivation, bhavana. The third way to plant blessings is perhaps the most profound, cultivating the mind. You see, the mind is like soil. If it's dry, neglected, and filled with weeds, no matter how many seeds you throw in, nothing meaningful will grow. But if the soil is rich, cared for, and nurtured, everything blossoms. So how do we cultivate the mind? Through practices like mindfulness, meditation, reflection, gratitude. Have you noticed how one thought can shape an entire day? You wake up, spill coffee on your shirt, and immediately think, "Ooh, today is ruined." Suddenly, every little thing feels heavier. But if you catch that moment and shift your mind, it's just coffee. I'll clean it, laugh at it, and move on. The whole day changes. That's the power of the mind. Cultivating blessings, then, isn't only about what we give or how we act, but about training the inner world, so we respond with clarity, not reactivity. With compassion, not judgment. With peace, not panic. The beauty of small acts. Now, you might be wondering, does it really make a difference? Do these small things, smiles, honesty, mindfulness, actually add up? The answer is yes, because blessings are cumulative. Like drops of water filling a jar, every act of kindness, every moment of integrity, every mindful breath adds up over time. The jar doesn't fill in one big splash, it fills drop by drop. Think about your own life. The people who impacted you most, were they the ones who gave you expensive gifts? Or were they the ones who showed up consistently, listened with patience, and reminded you of your worth? Personal reflection. I'll share a little story. I once knew a man who had a habit. Every morning, no matter how busy, he would greet every person he met with a genuine smile. The janitor, the security guard, the barista, everyone. At first, people thought it was just polite. But over time, it became contagious. People started greeting him back with more warmth, and soon even greeting each other the same way. One man, one small daily practice, created ripples of blessing throughout an entire workplace. That's the secret. Blessings don't have to be loud, dramatic, or spectacular. Sometimes, they're as simple as showing up with kindness, again and again. The message. So, to put it together, generosity teaches us to give without clinging. Integrity teaches us to live without harming. Inner cultivation teaches us to train the mind so it becomes a garden of peace. These are not distant ideals. They are practical ways to live, every single day. A gentle challenge for you. Today, notice your opportunities to plant blessings. Can you give something, even if it's just your time or your smile? Can you choose honesty, even when a little life feels easier? Can you pause, breathe, and redirect your mind when it wanders into negativity? Start with one seed, then another, because blessings aren't reserved for the chosen few. They're built, moment by moment, by anyone willing to live with openness, kindness, and awareness. Closing message. So, remember this, blessings are not far away. They are not reserved for saints or the wealthy or the powerful. They begin with the smallest gestures you and I can practice right now. As one teacher once said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The same is true for planting blessings. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start now, with your words, your actions, your thoughts. Teasing the next part. But perhaps you've noticed something. Sometimes we try to live generously, keep integrity, cultivate peace, and yet life still throws suffering our way. So here's the question. Why do some people who plant so many blessings still face hardship? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next video. Past karma and present challenges. Someone once asked me, I've tried to live a good life, I've helped others, I've given what I can, so why am I still suffering? Opening reflection. Have you ever asked yourself that question? Or maybe you've seen someone else, kind, generous, always willing to help, yet their life seems filled with illness, loss, or hardship. And you wonder, where is the justice? If karma is real, why do good people still face pain? This is a question as old as time. And to answer it, we need to look deeply, not only at what's happening now, but at the currents that run beneath the surface of our lives. A story of strength in illness. Let me tell you about a woman I once knew. She was diagnosed with a serious illness. At first, of course, there was fear. The kind of fear that shakes you to the core, the uncertainty, the questions, the why me moments. But instead of drowning in despair, she chose another way. Every morning, she would wake up and whisper to herself, "Today, I choose gratitude." Even on the day she could barely move, she found something. Sunlight through the window, a friend's visit, the taste of warm tea, to be thankful for. Doctors expected her condition to decline rapidly. Yet, slowly, against the odds, she began to recover. Not overnight, not miraculously, but gradually, step by step, she regained strength. When asked how she did it, she said, "I don't know if I could control the illness, but I could control my spirit. Maybe I'm paying old debts from the past, but my gratitude and kindness help me carry the weight more lightly." The teaching, past karma, present choice. This is where the wisdom of karma becomes more subtle. Karma doesn't mean that if you do something good today, tomorrow will instantly be perfect. Nor does it mean that if you face suffering, you must have done something wrong yesterday. Think of it this way. Karma is like seeds planted in a vast field. Some seeds sprout quickly, like grass after the rain. Others take years, or even lifetimes, to grow, like a great oak tree. So when suffering comes, it may not be the result of something you did yesterday, or even in this lifetime. It may be an old seed finally bearing fruit. But here's the crucial point. While we may not control which seed sprouts, we do control how we respond. That woman with illness couldn't erase her karma, but she could soften it. Her positivity, her gratitude, her generosity, they became cushions, making the heavy load lighter. Karma and blessings, how they work together. Here's something important to remember. Blessings don't erase karma, but they transform the way we experience it. Imagine two people carrying the same heavy stone. One carries it alone, with bitterness and anger. Every step feels unbearable. The other is surrounded by friends, kindness, compassion, patience, gratitude. The stone doesn't vanish, but the journey feels different. Less crushing, more possible. That's what blessings do. They don't delete old karma, but they help us walk through it with strength, support, and even joy. A common misunderstanding. Too often, people think, if I do good deeds, I should never suffer again. But goodness isn't a bargain. It's not a transaction with the universe. I give this, so you must give me that. Rather, goodness is a way of planting new seeds, ensuring that when old storms pass, new gardens will eventually bloom. The suffering we face today might be the rain we cannot stop, but the kindness we practice ensures that tomorrow, after the rain, flowers will grow. An everyday example. Think about physical exercise. If you've neglected your body for years, one day you might find yourself with back pain or poor health. That's the karma of past choices. But if you start exercising today, eating well, sleeping better, you don't erase yesterday's neglect. Yet, over time, you build strength. The pain becomes more manageable. Recovery becomes possible. That's how karma works. And that's how blessings help. The deeper meaning of suffering. Sometimes, hardship isn't punishment, it's purification. Have you noticed how often people discover their deepest wisdom, their truest compassion, or their strongest courage only in the face of difficulty? The illness that forces someone to slow down becomes the doorway to gratitude. The loss that breaks someone's heart becomes the teacher of empathy. The struggle that seems unbearable becomes the fire that forges resilience. This doesn't mean suffering is good. Pain is still pain. But it means that within pain, there can also be transformation, if we choose to meet it with awareness and compassion. Personal reflection. I'll be honest with you. I've asked that same question myself. Why do I still suffer, even when I try to do good? There were times in my life when nothing seemed fair. Times I felt like screaming at the universe, I've done my part, why isn't it enough? But over the years, I realized, karma isn't a vending machine. It doesn't operate on our schedule. The blessings we plant today may not bloom immediately, but they will bloom. Maybe in a week, maybe in a year, maybe in ways we don't expect. And the suffering we endure today may be the echo of old seeds, long forgotten. Yet, with patience and goodness, we can soften their impact and eventually step into new chapters of peace. The message. So here's the truth. Past karma may bring challenges we cannot escape, but present blessings give us strength to endure them. Good deeds don't guarantee a pain-free life, but they guarantee a meaningful one. Remember this, blessings don't erase karma. They help us walk through it more gently. A gentle challenge for you. If you're going through hardship right now, I invite you to ask yourself, can I meet this pain with a little more compassion for myself? Can I balance the weight with acts of kindness toward others and toward myself? Can I trust that even if today feels heavy, tomorrow can bring something lighter? Because even when karma feels unchangeable, the way you carry it is always in your hands. Closing thought. When you understand this, suffering stops being punishment and starts being teacher. It becomes part of the great weaving of life, threads of joy, threads of pain, all forming the tapestry of who we are. And maybe, just maybe, the hardships we face are not signs of failure, but opportunities to awaken the deepest strength within us. Teasing the next part. So, here's the next question. If blessings can soften karma, can karma itself be changed? In other words, is it possible to actually transform our destiny, or are we forever bound by past actions? That's the mystery we'll explore in the next video. Transforming karma. It begins with the mind. Do you believe that the most powerful way to change your destiny is not through luck, not through money, not even through hard work, but simply through changing the way you think? Opening reflection. Think about it. Our entire lives are shaped by the way we see the world. Two people can face the exact same situation. One turns it into suffering, the other turns it into growth. What makes the difference? It isn't the situation, it's the state of mind. And this, my friend, is the hidden key to karma. The mind is the root of everything. If karma is the seed, then the mind is the soil. Change the soil, and the seed will grow differently. A story of transformation. Let me share with you a story. There was a man I once met. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel was known for his temper. The smallest mistake from a coworker, the tiniest irritation on the road, even a late reply from a friend, he would explode. His anger burned like fire, and as you can imagine, his relationships, his health, even his career began to suffer. One day, a mentor gently told him, "You think the world is making you angry, but the fire is inside you. If you don't put it out, you'll burn your own house down." Those words struck him. So Daniel decided to try something he had never done before: meditation. At first, sitting still was unbearable. His mind raced, his chest felt heavy, the anger kept bubbling up. But he persisted. Every day, a few minutes of breathing, watching, letting go. Slowly, the storm inside began to quiet. He also practiced compassion. Whenever he felt irritation, he whispered, "May this person be free from suffering." At first, it felt fake, forced, but little by little, something shifted. The sharp edges of his anger softened. Months passed, and those who knew him noticed. Daniel smiled more. He argued less. He listened better. His health improved. His career steadied. Most importantly, he felt lighter, freer, like the fire that once consumed him had turned into warmth. The teaching: the mind is the root of karma. Why did Daniel's life change? Because karma is not just about what we do, it's about the mind from which our actions arise. Anger, greed, fear, these states of mind plant seeds of suffering. Love, patience, generosity, these states plant seeds of peace. The Buddha taught, mind precedes all things. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, suffering follows like the cartwheel behind the ox. If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves. In other words, change the mind, and you change the direction of your karma. Why the mind matters most. Think about this. Two people donate to charity. One gives with resentment, thinking, "Fine, I'll give, but I don't really want to." The other gives with joy, feeling grateful to help. The action looks the same, but the karma is completely different, because the seed of the action is in the mind. Or consider this. You can say thank you in two ways: with genuine gratitude, or with sarcasm. Same words, different energy, different karma. This is why transforming karma doesn't begin with changing the outside world. It begins with transforming the inner world. An everyday example. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Imagine waking up in a bad mood. You spill coffee, someone cuts you off in traffic, an email annoys you, and suddenly, the whole day feels cursed. That's karma, unfolding through the lens of your mind. But imagine waking up in gratitude. You notice the morning light, you smile at a stranger, you breathe before reacting, and somehow, the day feels smoother, lighter. That too is karma, shaped by your mind. The world didn't change. You did. And because you did, your reality did too. A deeper reflection. So the question becomes, if we want to change our lives, why do we spend so much time trying to rearrange the outside, money, possessions, circumstances, while ignoring the inside? It's like rearranging the furniture in a burning house. Unless you put out the fire in the mind, no amount of external change will bring peace. Daniel learned this. Many before him have learned this. And the truth is, every one of us has the power to learn it too. Personal perspective. I'll confess something. For a long time, I thought karma was just about doing good deeds. Give money. Help people. Be polite. But I realized, if my mind is still filled with jealousy, fear, or anger, then those deeds are just surface level. They may look good, but inside, they're planting mixed seeds. When I started watching my mind, really watching it, I saw how often small irritations controlled me. A rude comment, a delay in plans, a forgotten message. It could throw me off for hours. But slowly, through mindfulness, I began to choose differently. Instead of reacting, I paused. Instead of assuming the worst, I softened. Instead of rushing, I breathed. And you know what? Life felt lighter. Not because the world changed, but because I changed. The message. So here's the core truth. Karma begins in the mind. To change your karma, you must first change your state of mind. Transform the mind, and you transform the destiny. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's the simple law of cause and effect. The mind creates the cause, and life reflects the effect. A gentle challenge for you. This week, I invite you to try an experiment. Pick one negative pattern, maybe irritation, judgment, or worry. And every time it arises, pause, breathe, replace it with compassion, gratitude, or patience. It won't be easy. At first, it may feel unnatural. But over time, just like Daniel, you'll see, the fire inside you can turn into warmth. And that warmth will change the way the world responds to you. Closing thought. Changing your mind is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing the lens through which you see life. When you shift the lens, the picture changes. So remember, if you want to change your karma, don't start with the world. Start with your mind. Because the mind is the root of everything. Teasing the next part. But this brings us to a bigger question. If karma begins with the mind, then how do blessings and wisdom work together in shaping our lives? In the next part, we'll explore the connection between blessings and wisdom, and why both are needed for true freedom. Blessings nourish wisdom. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to understand life more easily, while others struggle no matter how hard they try? Could it be that blessings make wisdom easier to grow? Opening reflection. We often think of wisdom as something purely intellectual. Read more books, take more classes, think harder, and eventually you'll get it. But life has a way of showing us otherwise. I've met people with shelves full of books, with degrees from the best schools, and yet they still feel lost, still restless, still unable to find peace. On the other hand, I've seen people with very simple lives, little education, but their words carry such depth, their presence feels so steady. What makes the difference? It's not just intelligence. It's not just effort. It's blessings. Blessings as the soil, wisdom as the fruit. Think of blessings like fertile soil. Wisdom is like the seed. Even the best seed won't grow on barren ground. But give it rich soil, enough sunlight, water, and care, and it flourishes. In the same way, blessings create the right conditions for wisdom to take root. Someone with blessings is more likely to meet good teachers, good friends, people who encourage growth instead of pulling them down. They're more likely to have a peaceful enough mind to reflect, to learn, to see clearly. Without blessings, the mind is restless. easily pulled by anger, greed, or worry. And in that state, even the greatest teachings cannot sink in. A story, The Quiet Student. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man, quiet and humble, who came to study under a well-known teacher. He wasn't the most talented student. Others were sharper, quicker with words, better at debates. But he had something different: patience, kindness, and respect. He helped his fellow students. He listened deeply. He never mocked or competed. Over time, the teacher noticed that while the brilliant students argued and showed off, this quiet young man absorbed the teachings deeply. His mind was calm, his heart open. Years later, when the teacher grew old, it was not the brightest debater who inherited the wisdom, but the humble student. Why? Because blessings had nurtured his wisdom. His kindness and patience were the soil. His teacher's words were the seeds. And together, they bore fruit. Why blessings matter? So you see, blessings don't buy wisdom, but they prepare the ground for it. Think about it. When you're angry, anxious, or constantly struggling, can you really sit and reflect on life? Can you listen deeply to someone else? Can you see things clearly? Usually not. But when your life carries blessings, through generosity, kindness, good intentions, you feel lighter. You attract supportive people. You create opportunities. And in that peaceful space, wisdom grows naturally. A question for you. Now let me ask you, have you ever had a moment where you read or heard something wise, but it didn't sink in? Then, years later, you came across the same words, and suddenly, they hit you deeply? That's not just age. That's blessings ripening. Your mind was more open, your heart more ready. The same teaching, but now the soil was fertile. Personal perspective. I've felt this in my own journey. There were books I read in my 20s that felt like empty words. But when I returned to them years later, after some struggles, some growth, and yes, some blessings, they spoke directly to my heart. It wasn't that the book had changed. I had changed. My blessings had opened a little more space in me, and suddenly, wisdom could land. The interplay of blessings and wisdom. So here's the key. Blessings and wisdom are not separate. They feed each other. Blessings create the conditions for wisdom to grow. Wisdom, in turn, guides us to create more blessings. It's like two wings of a bird. With only one wing, you circle endlessly. But with both, you can truly fly. This is why traditions across the world emphasize both. Do good, cultivate blessings, but also seek wisdom, reflect, understand. One without the other is incomplete. Everyday examples. You can see this in daily life. A generous person often meets friends who support them. That's blessings. Surrounded by kindness, their heart is calmer, and they see life more clearly. That's wisdom. A patient parent raises children in a calmer household. That's blessings. In that calm, they notice small truths about life and love. That's wisdom. On the flip side, someone who is always chasing, competing, angry, they may be smart, but their restlessness keeps wisdom away. The soil is too rocky for the seed to grow. A gentle challenge for you. So here's something to try. Instead of only asking, how can I become wiser? Also ask, how can I create more blessings in my life? Because the two go hand in hand. Every smile, every kind word, every patient moment is not only good karma, it's also preparing your heart to see deeper truths. Closing message. So remember this. Blessings are the conditions. Wisdom is the result. Together, they are like two wings of the same bird. With blessings alone, you may live comfortably but without direction. With wisdom alone, you may understand deeply but struggle in life. But with both, life flows more harmoniously, the mind flies further, the heart rests lighter. Teasing the next part. But here's a question. If blessings can be built, can they also be lost? Can a person with great blessings suddenly find themselves empty-handed? We'll explore that in the next part. Blessings fade if not nurtured. Did you know that blessings can actually run out? Just like money in a bank account, if you spend without adding more in, one day, it will be gone. Opening reflection. We often assume that blessings are permanent. If someone is born into wealth, health, or opportunities, we think they'll always have them. But life shows us a different truth. Blessings are not fixed. They are more like flowing water. If we take care of the stream, it stays fresh and full. But if we waste it, pollute it, or never add to it, it dries up. This is something many people forget. We celebrate our blessings when they come, but do we take care to nurture them? Or do we just consume them until they're gone? The story of the wasted fortune. Let me share a story. There was once a man born into immense wealth. His parents had worked hard, created businesses, helped the community, and left behind a fortune. He inherited not only money but also the respect and trust of many people. At first, he lived comfortably, but over time, he grew indulgent. He spent recklessly on parties, luxury, and pleasures. He ignored the workers his father had cared for, treated people like tools, and never gave back to the community that had supported his family. Within a decade, the fortune was gone. The respect was gone. Even his friends disappeared because they had only come for the money. What happened? His blessings were real, but he did not nurture them. He consumed them as though they would last forever. And like a stream left untended, they ran dry. The teaching, blessings as flow, not a static thing. Here's the teaching: blessings are not permanent possessions. They are conditions, always in motion. Think of blessings as water in a reservoir. If you continue to pour in, through kindness, generosity, patience, the water rises. If you only draw out, through selfishness, indulgence, exploitation, the water lowers. If you both draw and refill, the reservoir remains steady. So the question is not only, do I have blessings, but also, am I nurturing them or wasting them? A gentle reminder for all of us. And this isn't just about money or wealth. Health is a blessing. But if we abuse our bodies, never rest, eat poorly, or hold too much stress, that blessing fades. Relationships are a blessing. But if we neglect them, take loved ones for granted, or refuse to nurture trust, they wither. Opportunities are a blessing. But if we are careless, ungrateful, or arrogant, those doors eventually close. Every blessing, no matter how great, can fade if we don't care for it. A question for you. Think about your own life for a moment. What blessings do you currently have? Health, friendships, work, family, freedom. And are you nurturing them, or are you slowly letting them slip away? Sometimes, the fastest way to lose a blessing is to forget that it is a blessing. Personal reflection. I've seen this in my own journey. There were times when I took health for granted, working late, skipping sleep, rushing meals. I thought, I'll be fine. I'm strong. But then, my body reminded me otherwise. That's when I realized, health is not permanent. It has to be respected and cared for. I've also seen relationships fade, not because of betrayal, but because of neglect. Too busy, too distracted, too confident they'll always be there. But blessings are like flowers. They bloom when watered, but they wilt if ignored. The hidden side of blessings. Here's something interesting. Sometimes, too many blessings without wisdom can actually harm us. Have you noticed? Some people rise too quickly, get everything they want, and then spiral into emptiness or self-destruction. Fame without grounding. Wealth without discipline. Comfort without gratitude. Why does this happen? Because blessings without nurturing turn into decay. The soil was rich, but instead of planting seeds, they poured poison into it. This is why blessings need both protection and renewal. The practical path: how to nurture blessings. So, how do we nurture blessings? Gratitude. The simple act of recognizing a blessing already strengthens it. Gratitude is like sunlight for the heart. Generosity. Share what you have. Blessings multiply when circulated. Just like water flowing through irrigation nourishes fields, generosity keeps blessings alive. Mindful living. Don't waste. Whether it's food, time, money, or relationships, honor them. Treat each as precious. Continued goodness. Keep planting seeds. Small acts of kindness, patience, forgiveness, all of these are deposits into your blessing account. Everyday example. Think of someone who has modest wealth but keeps giving, keeps helping, keeps staying humble. Somehow, their life remains full, not necessarily rich in dollars, but rich in peace, respect, and support. Compare that to someone who has millions but hoards, mocks, or wastes. Their fortune may look great from the outside, but inside, they live in fear, loneliness, or emptiness. One nurtures blessings, the other drains them. Closing thought. So remember this. Blessings are like water. Keep the stream flowing, and life will always feel abundant. Stop nurturing, and it will run dry. It's not enough to simply receive blessings. We must protect them, honor them, and most importantly, use them wisely to create more goodness. Glimpse of what's next. But here's the question that many still ask. If blessings can be nurtured, and karma keeps unfolding, how do blessings and karmic debts truly interact in shaping the life we live today? That's what we'll explore in the next part. Understanding karma and blessings to live in peace. Karma and blessings are not just about the next life. They shape the happiness we experience today. Have you ever noticed that some people, no matter what they go through, seem to live with a kind of quiet joy, while others, even with comfort and wealth, often feel restless, dissatisfied, or burdened? We often think happiness is about luck, or maybe destiny. But when we look a little deeper, we see that blessings and karma are playing out in real time, not just some distant afterlife. Let's slow down and explore this together. When we hear the word karma, many of us instantly think of punishment. Oh, that's karma, people say when something bad happens. But karma is not a cosmic police officer chasing us down. Karma is simply the natural consequence of our actions, seeds we plant that grow into the fruits we later taste. And blessings, or what we might call good fortune, are the sweet fruits that come from planting good seeds. These blessings don't always show up as piles of money or perfect health. Sometimes, blessings show up in small, subtle, but profound ways, like meeting the right teacher at the right time, having a heart that knows gratitude, or the ability to sleep peacefully at night. So, what's the relationship between the two, blessings and karma? Imagine this. You're driving down a long road. The bumps and potholes you encounter, those are karma from the past, consequences of choices you or even your ancestors made. But whether your car has good suspension, whether you're driving with patience, whether you've prepared well for the journey, that's your blessings. Two people might face the same obstacle. One gets crushed by it. The other grows stronger, wiser, even more compassionate. The difference isn't fate, it's how blessings soften the blow of karma. Let me share a simple story. I once knew a man who had faced many struggles. As a child, his family was poor, and later in life he battled a serious illness. If karma was all there was, you might say he was doomed. But what struck me was this: he never lost his smile. He was kind to everyone, even in pain. He gave away what little he had. Slowly, people were drawn to him. Friends helped, doctors went the extra mile, and somehow he recovered. Was his illness the result of past karma? Perhaps. But his recovery, his support network, his ability to smile through the storm, those were the fruits of his blessings. It's a reminder that karma explains why challenges arise, but blessings explain how we meet those challenges. Now, here's the danger. When people misunderstand these teachings, they fall into superstition. They think karma is a curse, or blessings can be bought through rituals alone. But the truth is much simpler and more empowering. Karma reminds us that we are responsible for our choices. Blessings remind us that goodness, kindness, generosity, and patience always return to us, often when we need them most. Think about your own life. Have you ever faced a tough moment, maybe financial hardship, illness, or heartbreak, and yet, somehow, there was a person, a chance, or even a little inner strength that carried you through? That's blessing at work. Or on the other side, have you ever noticed that when you act carelessly, speak harshly, or neglect kindness, life seems to push back eventually? That's karma gently knocking on your door. Neither is punishment. Neither is reward. Both are simply mirrors, reflecting what we send out into the world. So here's the real takeaway. Blessings and karma are not abstract philosophies for monks or mystics. They are practical truths for everyday living. When we understand them, we stop blaming fate, stop falling into fear, and stop relying on superstition. Instead, we begin living with responsibility and freedom. You see, blessings and karma are happening now. They're not waiting for some future life. The smile you offer to a stranger, the patience you show your child, the forgiveness you give instead of anger, these are blessings in the making. And at the same time, every harsh word, every careless action, every selfish choice plants seeds we may later have to walk through. Understanding this is not meant to scare us. It's meant to empower us. Because if we are planting seeds constantly, then at any moment, we can choose to plant better ones. There's a saying, if you want to know your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at your actions now. This isn't mystical, it's practical. If today I live with kindness, discipline, and generosity, my tomorrow will naturally carry more peace. If today I act with anger, greed, and carelessness, my tomorrow will be heavy. It's that simple. So where does peace come from? It comes from understanding. Understanding that karma is not punishment, but cause and effect. Understanding that blessings are not random luck, but the result of conscious choices. When we live with that clarity, our heart feels lighter. We stop comparing our life to others. We stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I learn? What can I give? That shift, from blame to responsibility, from fear to understanding, that is the beginning of true peace. Let me end with this thought. Karma and blessings are like the soil and the rain. If we understand how they work, we can cultivate our garden wisely. We can plant flowers instead of weeds. We can water with love instead of neglect. And over time, the garden of our life will bloom with joy, peace, and meaning. So remember, karma asks us to take responsibility. Blessings invite us to keep doing good. Together, they show us how to live an awakened, peaceful life today. Closing message. To understand blessings and karma is not to fear them, but to work with them. Plant good seeds now, and tomorrow's harvest will be sweeter. Live with awareness today, and peace will follow naturally. Teaser for next video. And this leads us to an even deeper question. If karma and blessings shape our lives, can we actually transform karma itself? In our next video, we'll explore the power of mindfulness in transforming karma.